are live. Welcome, everybody. I see y'all falling into the chat. In case you are confused and wondering who I am, my name is Antonio Bryce. I am the creator of the comic book series brand. We are nearing $73,000 on Indiegogo, over 2,300 backers. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. But I have someone I have been watching for a while now. This gentleman is the founder of Alterna Comics, founded in 2006, if I am not mistaken, and he's still here, still doing the damn thing. It's a throwback to something I'm very fond of, newsprint. He's got the sequel to his very successful crowdfund from last year, AlternaWeen 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Peter Simeti. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much, Antonio. That was a really great intro. I don't think I've ever had an intro like that before. Usually they're like, here's this guy.
I want you to feel special, man. You know, you do a good work out here, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And you got the year right. Yeah, 2006.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's why I'm like, so first of all, how are you still in business when a lot of these comic companies are? I'm just saying, you're some people hear newsprint and they laugh at your business model. You're obviously still doing it and very successful at it. Where you're able to employ people. So that is
well, yeah. It's very small. I mostly run 99% of everything. And along with the creators, they pull their weight too. I make sure that we do our best to get creators on board who will pull their weight and are excited about their work. Why do you want to read a comic from someone who's not excited about their own comic at all? It takes a long time, as you know. It takes a long time and a lot of money to create these things. Why not be excited about it? So I like getting creators on board who have that passion. And they make my life a little bit easier by having that passion, and they talk to readers and they're very engaging. But Alterna stayed around for the longest time because, it's funny, like you say about the newsprint. We've only been doing that since 2017. This would technically be, I guess, our third year doing it because 2017, 18, and now into 19. Before that, we mostly just did graphic novels. And at that point in time, everybody thought I was nuts for that too. A publisher that's just going to put out graphic novels, you guys are going to be gone in a year. And then we did that for 10 or 11 years. And as that market flooded, because everyone said graphic novels are great. We got to get everything as a graphic novel now. So I was being called crazy back in 2007, 2008 when we wanted to do that. And then everybody jumped on board of that, flooded the market around 2014, 2015. And that's when I said, we got to put out an affordable single issue. And I want to get newsprint comics out there. I've always wanted to, because to me, comics are so synonymous with newsprint. But I couldn't find a printer for the longest time. And it just because I wasn't looking in the right places. It's a completely different press. It's not an offset press. So once we figured that out, we've been putting out newsprint comics since.
And doing the day, I've some of my friends have purchased your comics and they are raving. I've gotten a few samples, of newsprint comics, modern newsprint comics, I guess I should say, and very high quality and affordable. Obviously, I think that's a good thing. Where you see the price of the comics are going, it's $2.99, it's $3.99. It's $4.99, $7.99. In the comics, and it's still just like 22 pages or whatever, and you're not getting much bang for your buck. And a lot of times the creators, they're what you were talking about. They're not really supporting their project. They're just there trying to going through the motions, cashing the paycheck. But it looks like your people,
let's hope they're cashing a paycheck.
Oh, well, yeah, I've heard some horror stories on that as well, though. Yeah, which is unfortunate. But I've just admired what how you've built your, you've got like 83,000 Twitter followers and all this. I was just like, sounds like you've got a really good distribution model. Are you going through like Diamond? How are you getting your comics out there?
We've been going through Diamond since 2008. And we've also had book market distribution too. into Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all the traditional places. We've since switched books distributors. Our original one was Partners Publishers Group, and they went under around 2015, like I said, because the market started getting flooded. And we switched over to IPG. It's been all right. The graphic novel market, it's pretty much like Scholastic, Random House, the big companies, which really they do phenomenally well, but obviously because they're so large too. And then kind of everybody else at the bottom. It's not, everyone thinks, they see the successes at the bigger companies and they think, well, graphic novels are flourishing and they're doing tremendously. In some cases, yes, but in most cases, no. And the more that you look at that and you go, well, I want a graphic novel, I want to put it out there. Well, now everyone's got a graphic novel. All the stories go to trade. It doesn't matter whether or not it seems like it's a classic or a very popular story arc. Everything goes to trade. And then you flood that market. And what happens is, especially in that market, there's not enough space for it. We don't have bookstores that are just filled with graphic novels only. They're filled with the majority of other things, So between libraries and bookstores, which is primarily the graphic novel market, you're talking about very limited shelf space, and it's highly competitive. And we already see crowding in the single issue market for comics. But the graphic novel market is much different, especially because everyone thinks Marvel and DC are big in comics. They're nothing compared to the bigger graphic novel publishers like Scholastic. Those guys are juggernauts. So it's a totally different game at that point. And so I love the fact that we can offer these $1.50, in some cases 99 cents for a reprint line like ICYMI. I love the fact that we can offer these single issues at this great price. And then newsprint allows us to do that. It's so much more affordable to print on newsprint. And we've had distribution since 2008. And now we're doing a lot of stuff in the past 2 years where we distribute directly to retailers as well. And that's been a wonderful experience because they're very shy about it at first, and I understand why. You think, all right, these guys are a smaller company, they're looking at Alterna thinking, okay, but is it still going to be arriving in good shape? Are we still going to be getting our stuff, in the quality we need to sell it? Especially because we give them a really good discount, a better discount than they get through distribution. And every time, though, they give us a shot, they love it because we ship them really nice. They get them in great condition. And even if, as good as we can ship them, even if the post office decides to have a game of soccer with the package and everything arrives damaged, we'll still ship them out the comics they need again, free of charge if there's all these damages. Especially, all I ask for is pictures so we can see the damage, not so they can prove it, but so that I can see, okay, how did this get damaged? Because I want to know, what do we have to do to make sure these damages don't continue to happen, just in case they roughhouse a bit with the packages. And the retailers are always happy to do that. And in some cases, they're shocked when I say, no, we'll just ship them out to you. We get them for free. Just keep the damages. Don't, do whatever you want to do with them. Give them away, discount them, whatever. And they've been loving the experience. So we've been growing like that. And that's been really nice.
And I noticed you actually have you actually do have ads in your comics, or at least some of them, right?
Yeah. We haven't had a chance in the past couple of months to put a lot of the ads that we had early on, but it's mostly because I didn't have time to sell ads anymore. We were selling so many books, I didn't have time to sell advertising and do the work that took. But when I was doing it, it was very easy to sell the ads. So instead, we got a person on board, Kevin Rodatelli. He's selling the ads for us, and we're starting to get ads back into the books because he's doing a wonderful job of that, and he's growing with it. And he's able to pick up the slack and do something that I just don't have the time to do anymore, even though it was great when I was able to do it because we pretty much paid for almost the entire print run on ads. So we wouldn't even really be paying much for printing, maybe a couple $100, mostly just the shipping, not really the print run. But I stopped having the time for that. And I wish... I guess it's a good problem to have, right? When you're selling so much that you just You don't have time for anything else anymore.
All right, let me see. I see we got some people in the chat. I see Sweet Cast out there that I read Blood Realm 1 through 3 last night. It was such a unique book. Very moody. I enjoyed it. All right, shout out to Sweet Cast. What's going on, Clint? See you out there, brother. Right. But I wanted to add, because when you was talking about when you started and you were putting out graphic novels, I had Jeff Smith on a few weeks ago. It was a privilege to talk to him, and that was something that I kind of mentioned to him because he was definitely one of the first people I saw. That's how I first started reading Bone. I was buying because you couldn't find the back issues, and he started putting the trade paperbacks out, and my comic shop was buying his trade paper. And I started getting like volume 1 through 5, The Great Cow Race. I started getting all his books, and so that seems to be a business model. I mean, he's reprinted. You can keep reprinting them multiple times and just keep generating that income, which I like that. So I'm hoping to build up a nice big stack of comics where I can just collect them in like trade paperbacks and stuff like that and just sell them. So I was like, it's
yeah, that's what's great about a deal like that he's got with Scholastic too, is that it'll become a perennial book. It'll always be there. It's even working its way into schools and things like that too at that point. And I know he's had a lot of success with it. That was a great deal for him. But that's exactly the mindset too when it comes to being an indie publisher, an indie creator, or even someone at one of the bigger companies like Image or Dark Horse or Marvel or DC. You look at that and you go, okay, we can get a little bit of that. Even if we had a little bit of that audience, it would be great. But the thing is that that's always the way you look at it in business, but you should never look at it that way. That if we had a little bit of what they're getting, we'd be fine. You're not gonna steal people away. You're gonna either share an audience or you're gonna be establishing your own. So it's never gonna be just a little bit of someone else's pie. So when you look at that, you go, everyone wants to put out a graphic novel. Everyone wants to have that success. Everyone wants to get a book that's going to be perennial and always out there, right? You think a graphic novel, they're not really going to, be quick to return it. It's not like a monthly issue. But when the market gets flooded, that's what we found, because they don't have enough space. So before, they used to give books about 6 months or so of shelf space, a new book, let's say from Alterna. Then I was noticing 3 months. Then I was noticing a month. They'd give a month to a graphic novel, and then they'd return it. And return usually meant destroy, because especially in bookstores, people would be looking through them. When they return them, they kind of just chuck them in a box. So they could be fine to resell, but when then they return them back to distribution, they're just tossed around everywhere from shipping. They get destroyed. So if you're talking about a graphic novel on the shelf for a month, that's a floppy, but times 10 in the cost to get that thing there. And, when you're looking at return rates, sometimes upwards of 50 to 60% now. It used to be 20 to 30%. Now it's double that, because, again, the space is so flooded. So in that kind of case, you're looking at return rates through the roof. You're looking at return times being shortened. And you're looking at graphic novels now as not really the great thing that they should be. Because ideally, you do want to have a graphic novel out there and say, okay, we've got time to promote this. It's a book that should have a much longer shelf life, obviously, than an issue to issue, month to month kind of thing. But when it's flooded, you can't guarantee that. So that's what became scary to me about the graphic novel market, and especially where our whole business was based around that. It wasn't looking good. So if we had stuck that route, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. Alterna would probably be done. So doing the newsprint single issues and making ourselves separate from the pack by having a lower price point with still good books and on newsprint, which everyone's been asking. Everyone was asking. I was asking for it, but everyone else was asking for it too. When and why? Why aren't comics on newsprint? And when will they be? They should be on newsprint again, even if not all of them, obviously, but some of them, if not most of them. Most of them could definitely be. And so when we did that, we noticed a ton of people just gravitate towards us because of it. And then I also noticed, and you can see it too on sales charts. I don't know if you follow comic sales closely or anything like that, But you'll notice that a graphic novel is generally about 8 to 10% of the readership for a single issue. You know, the sales, they correlate. Yeah. So even on the indie level, you get a book that sells 5,000. Maybe the graphic novel sells 800, 1,000. You're lucky if it's 1,000. So you'll see that the readership number is different. And I like to get more readers on board because then they get excited about the books and they talk about them and they spread the word. And the more people you have reading your stuff, the better. As opposed to looking at it and going, well, we want the most money out of you know, this small group of people as possible. I'd rather get a little bit of money out of a lot of people and have a lot of people read the books and enjoy the books.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I've discovered with this crowdfund for brand that if we were a little bit higher, I'd be over 100,000 right now. But I've got over 2,300 backers that I'll be able to go back to the next time and be like, okay, well, here's the sequel. If you like that one, boom, and just kind of build it that way. I think I'm very happy with the success that we've had, and that's something I actually wanted to. Well, I want to start. If I'm a brand new comics creator or whatever, my approach Alterna, I've got my IP or whatever. Do you guys do like an image where the creator is the owner, or does Alterna have a bunch of properties that they own exclusively? Like, is there an Alterna universe? How does that work?
No, yeah, Alterna doesn't own anything in terms of creator properties. We own the logo and things like that. So that's why you'll see me merchandising the logo a lot too. And I'm so grateful that people love the company enough that the logo means something to them. Because that's the other thing too. If you don't feel emotionally attached, or like you're rooting for a specific brand, character, company, whatever, the merchandising means nothing, right? Like I could show you merchandise of some character you've never heard of, or I can show you merchandise of a character you love and has meant something to you for years. And one of them is going to be the one you're going to purchase as opposed to the other. And it doesn't even mean that because the other one's bad or it's a poor design or anything like that. It just means one thing means something to you and the other thing doesn't mean something to you yet. So with Alterna, it's 100% creator owned. Everybody owns their own IP. All we own, and I say own very loosely, we're borrowing, essentially, we're licensing the rights to distribute and publish. But we're not borrowing the rights to license and distribute and publish the brand, the creator, the character, the whatever it is. So it's not a part of our thing to say we're going to do stickers, we're going to do shirts, we're going to do all these things based on your characters, and then we keep them and we do all this stuff with them or whatever, or we do a split or anything like that. That kind of stuff, I want to talk to creators about it eventually, about seeing if we can do some merchandising where we do some kind of a split. But they always would get whatever it is, in terms of if they do their own thing. We don't even touch that. We don't get a cent of that. If they get a movie deal, nothing. We don't get anything out of that.
Oh, okay. That's why. Yeah, that's why I was wondering. I was like, okay, so because I obviously I understand that the cost of printing and shipping the books has to be accounted for. Things like that. I'm assuming those costs are going to be taken out, obviously, because it's not free to do those things.
Exactly. So that's the production cost. We recoup that. And then it's an 80-20 split. So then the creators of the team or whoever it is that's in charge, they get 80% of the profit at that point. And then if you do a graphic novel, we don't cover the financing for the graphic novel, but that's why we encourage crowdfunding. And what happens is let's say you crowdfund or you don't crowdfund, either way, you paid for the graphic novel production. Now you get reimbursed every time that sells. So if it's $3 per unit, let's say, you get $3 back every single time a copy sells. So on your royalty report, you also get your reimbursement as well as your profit split. So this way, by the end of it, after you sell everything, you made your money back on your run. Even if you did a crowdfunder, you still made your money back on that print run. But of course, again, that's why I love getting creators who are excited to promote, because if you don't promote, if you're not excited about your stuff, if you don't get the word out there, if you don't actually try to sell and try to get people aware of your work, it's going to be a struggle to get your stuff sold, because I can only promote so much as well, because we've got a ton of people. And then on top of it, of course I'm going to say lovely things about this book that we signed on, you know. And I could never be as excited though about it as a creator. It would never mean as much with me saying how great this book is and all this other stuff. I can do that and spread the word as well, but to hear it from the person who made it, to hear the excitement, to see that they're passionate about it, to see that they care about it, you know, that means a lot to people. So it's the same kind of thing of, you know, if you were to go to a restaurant, you know, and the waitress or the waiter talks up the meal to you. It's different than if you were to go back there and you had a great meal and you meet the person who made it, and they just kind of, you know, exude like, oh yes, thank you so much, you know, I'm glad you loved the meal, and you walk away, you're like, oh man, that was great, I got to come back here, you know, these people are wonderful, you know. And that's how we want readers to respond too. We want them to love the stuff that we're doing, that everybody works so hard at. So that's why it's important to me to get creators who really are excited about their stuff.
Well, I would one thing I would say is especially in the crowdfunding thing, you know, obviously I showcase a lot of independent creators on this channel, and I notice that when they come here, you know, somebody in the chat will, you know, they'll purchase the comic or whatever, and then they just sit there and they don't do anything else after they get off the show. They're not I notice they're not really working their Twitters that much. They don't have any other type of social media. They're not trying to do YouTube. I definitely encourage anybody out there doing a book to start, you know, maybe even before you launch, you know, a couple months before, start trying to build an audience, as opposed to, hey Antonio, let me just hop on. Hey Antonio, you know, it's just you're not gonna, because it's like, yeah, I'll let you come on, and then you're just gonna be still sitting there like, you know, I had someone on, and then a couple weeks later they were like, hey Antonio, could you just tweet that out again for me? Hey, could you do this? And I'm like, what are you doing? I gotta get you to. It's your book, man. If you're not passionate, it's like, you see me when, I mean, I had 2 failed campaigns before I got onto this one, and I was out there hustling. You know, I was trying to hop on channels and doing this and working Twitter and building my Instagram, you know, just trying to do anything I could to get the word out there. Obviously third time's the charm, but you know, you gotta, yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone, if they're going to do something like this, you've got to be able to not just depend on other people promoting. You've got to get out there and do a lot of the work. And that's why I was like, I see that. How did you, because one thing, I love your Twitter. I was like, how did you build that many Twitter followers? You got a bunch, man. It's like over 80,000. I'm like, how do you get that kind of following on Twitter? Just being a nice guy or what?
No, largely well, I started in 2 ways. I started it with following people first, right? So follow people first, extend the hand first. That's how I always viewed social media. As I'm at a convention, I'm at a signing. You introduce yourself first. So you follow first, or you comment first, or you like someone's stuff first, and you build up, you know. And because if you're just coming on the scene and you're new, because I see new creators do this a lot, that they kind of show up and then they sort of expect everybody to find them, you know. And we see this, and we see this a lot in the comic industry too, actually. You know, I made a book, how come no one knows about it? Well, you have to talk about it. So it's the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of thing. You just have to follow people, and just the conversation naturally will occur, you know. And people, sometimes they'll follow back or they won't follow back or whatever it is. But then the second thing I did too was I did a lot of giveaways of my art. So I built up a lot of people by doing, you know, retweet and follow. And this was years ago. It's got to be 5 or 6 years ago at this point. So I did a lot of sketches, a lot of quick things, and I would do a lot of, you know, retweet and follow for a chance to win and all that kind of stuff. And in the process, everyone that retweets or comments or anything, I would talk to them, because again, I'm viewing it like I'm meeting people at a show. So it would be someone coming to my table, my Twitter page, and talking about, you know, what I'm doing, the art, whatever it is. And then, you know, you respond in kind. And that's just kind of how I kept building a following over and over again. Over the years, of course, Twitter has made a lot of rules to squash following people and building your brand. You know, they'll time you out. You can only follow like 20 people or something at a time, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
and it really limits the thing. And then on top of it, they shadow ban people, and all of a sudden one day you'll lose 100 followers out of nowhere, and then someone months later will come back and say, hey, I noticed we're not following each other anymore. I don't know what happened. So there's been all kinds of things, and they wreak havoc with the whole networking aspect of things. But that's the best way to try to build any kind of network ever, is to extend yourself out there first. Don't just, and do it in a sincere way. Don't just do it I wasn't trying to just accumulate people on there. I was trying to actually get people aware of what I was doing, and also then become aware of what they were doing too. If they had projects, if they were interested in things, or even, someone maybe they're not in comics, they're not working in comics, they're not even interested in comics, let's say. But we all have some kind of interest. Either it's a movie, a show, a sports team, whatever it is, or even just sharing jokes on social media or whatever.
Definitely that.
Yeah, there's a million things you can find some kind of common ground with someone else with. So that's how I viewed it for the longest time. And only very recently, it's been kind of sad to see a lot of like the blockchain tactics used, because it limits that kind of fun and that camaraderie we could all have. We can have our differences. We could follow sometimes people that maybe they gave someone a hard time along the way, and someone got really upset and then decided to block all their followers or whatever it is. I don't know. But it's foolish to do that, because you're just limiting your own world, and it takes the fun out of all of this. If that's the mindset, you might as well just get off of social media, because it's just not for you.
Well, yeah, the reason I asked you that question, because I get asked that a lot. Less than a year ago, I had probably 150 followers, and now I've got 2,800 on Twitter. One little trick for me is I'll try to find like a article that people are talking about, something that I think will get people engaged and try to get them, or a cool piece of artwork. Obviously I'm in comics, so if I follow a lot of hot artists and somebody tweets something out, and I'll be like, boom, and I'll tweet it back or something like that gets people excited and engaged.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed that helps to, all of a sudden someone will retweet something I tweeted out, and then they'll be like, oh, and they'll look at my timeline, and then I'll start noticing I'll get followers like that. And that's been really successful for me as far as building up a Twitter presence.
Yeah, because you're extending the hand first. You're making yourself be known first, and saying, hey, I like this, I want to do this, and it brings people then to you. If you're just the person who wants to take, no one wants to follow that person. If you're the person who just constantly sends the DMs, hey, tweet this out, hey, tweet this out, hey, tweet my thing, yes. And then you look at their page and you're like, you don't ever tweet anything for anyone ever.
Yeah, and that's something that Ethan Van Sciver has said to me a few times. He's like, just don't always just be a taker. You got to give some as well, And I was like, I agree with that. But I wanted to ask this question because I saw this jalapeno milk in the chat, and you're not Comicsgate, but you're known in many Comicsgate circles as CG friendly. You value the dollar. and we love you for it. So a lot of CG people support Alterna Comics. And so Jalapeno Milk is asking, is there any CG properties you would like to bring into the Alterna brand, or that you would feel would be a good fit for Alterna?
That's an interesting question. I've given that question a lot of thought, obviously, over the past 2 years or however long it's been since all of this stuff started. To me, and this might rub some people the wrong way, but I don't see in terms of Comicsgate, I don't understand the long term of that. In 30 or 40 years, are we all going to kick back and say, I'm still Comicsgate? Or is it eventually going to die down? Is it eventually going to turn into something where either this is the norm, or it's just not even used anymore? Because it's mostly just kind of a hashtag thing or a label. I don't really like labels necessarily, and that was always the biggest reason why I didn't come out and say anything like, "Oh, I declared myself Comicsgate." I don't like that feeling, that attachment, that feeling of well, now I am this thing, and I must be associated forever with it. I have no problem being associated with who I am or Alterna Comics. So to me, it's one of those. If you view yourself as Comicsgate, and that's fine. I have no, I'm not going to say you should do this and you should do that. I'm just talking about what's right for me and what I'm comfortable with. But if you refer to yourself as I'm Comicsgate, do you really want or need Alterna at that point? Because to me, you've already kind of associated yourself with the brand. Do you really need the Alterna brand? Because if you're going to be a part of Alterna, to me, Alterna is we're working together as a team. You don't play for two teams. Like when you join, up in a sport, you don't play, for the Rangers and the Bruins. You don't play for the Yankees and the Red Sox. You play for one team. So to me, which team is more important to you? Because Alterna, we're all about obviously customer service, being great with fans, being able to listen to praise and criticism, being able to support the industry at large and also the industry on a smaller level with readers. So we're all about these things that everybody also in Comicsgate generally seems to be about. And we're also about, not having pointing the finger and doing finger wagging in our stories at readers or, trolling people through the pages. That doesn't make much sense to me to do. But we see it happen at certain other publishers. So we're not about those things, obviously. So it's not like you have to say, well, now we have to change up and we have to do all these kinds of different things and I have to surrender who I am to be a part of Alterna. But that's the thing, is that if it's a label, if CG is a label or a brand, I don't see where joining with Alterna would necessarily be something that you would want to do or that you would feel the need to do. It's kind of taken on a life of its own. So I'm sure that down the line we're going to get people who felt they were or associated as Comicsgate at one point in time, only because we all make comics, we all love comics, right? So we're all going to keep doing that. And as long as you're doing you and you're being a good creator and you're being engaging with your audience and you're not being someone who's out there, crapping all over people and being super divisive and forcing people to kind of, you with me or against me, because I don't like that kind of stuff, and
Neither do
you
I.
can, yeah, and you can do what you're gonna do. It's like what Shinto said, they're team comics. I'm all about team comics in terms of the comics are the most important thing. Making a great story is the most important thing. The readers are the most important thing. All these things, if your priorities are in line with that, then all the other stuff is not just, it's generally not necessary. It's just kind of just there, So that's the way I see it. I see it as it's just common sense business practices. And, whether or not you've ever declared yourself as aligning with Comicsgate or whatever it is. I mean, that's the thing too, right? It's like for so many people, I view that as, well, what does it mean? I still don't necessarily know what it means, like to a T, because it's something different for every single person in some way. So it's very hard to define. So I don't try to view things like that. I try to stay very objective with things like this. And that's why I don't get really wrapped up in it. And it's not necessarily either like, oh, CG loves Alterna or me because of the fact that I like money and I want to, make money off of comics. I like people, and that's the thing, is I like people, and I like the fact that there's people who love comics. People in comic books, they all go hand in hand to me. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily, and I've said this before, if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like me or Alterna, or for whatever reason, but you still make a comic book, especially a comic that gets into shops, I want your comic to sell really well. I want you to do great because I want that shop to do great. And I want more readers in comics. I want more people getting into this wonderful industry and this hobby that we all love, so it's around for forever. If the more we become divisive, the more we divide, the less of a chance of survival there is for this whole industry. And we can't have that at this point in time. I'd love to see more unity among people. And if we can't unify, go your separate ways and do your own thing, and let that be that, because that's the best way forward.
Oh man, if I had a hat, I would tip it to you. But I just, man, that's what it's like. Like I said, a lot of folks have a lot of love for you, man. You just, you're very customer friendly. A lot of, there's a lot of admirers. Of course, I count myself as one of them. But I want to actually talk about this idea you had for AlternaWeen. You did this last year, raised what, over 17,000 or so. It was pretty successful, and you're back this year for AlternaWeen 2. Matter of fact, let me do some screen sharing because I've got the campaign pulled up, and I want to actually look at it because why did you do this? This is interesting to me. So. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. And hopefully it's not roboting. I know sometimes we do the screen share robots. But do I still have Pete?
Yep, I'm here. I'm just very still.
Okay, I was just making sure because I was like, yeah, I know sometimes we do the screen share, it'll cut for a second. That's why I was like, okay. So here's your campaign. This is AlternaWeen 2 Newsprints Revenge. And you have raised $7,225. It looks like you got 38 hours left to get in on this. Are you going into OnDemand, or are you just going to shut this bad boy down?
Yeah, when it ends is when it ends. We've had a couple people that want it to extend a bit, but we have to end it when we need to end it. This way I can start getting everything done, everything made, everything out there in time, because of the fact that all those comics have to get there in time for Halloween. Now, we started last year. It was almost a month late. It finished around September 20th or so. And shipping out 15,000 comics within 2 weeks, you can only imagine.
That's a lot of comics.
Yeah, it was something like, we had close to 500 backers. So that was close to, I'd say, in total, because a lot of them doubled up. So it was over 400 separate packages that needed to be packed, shipped, etc., within 2 weeks. So that was a lot of 16-hour days of literally just like up at 7, not stop packing until 2, 3 in the morning, and pass out and do it all over again. So I didn't want to have that again occur. Last year we kind of couldn't avoid it because of the insane foolishness that occurred. It really kind of stalled the campaign from starting a bit. But I still wanted to have it launch anyway. I still wanted to keep true to my word because a lot of people were really looking forward to it. And so we did that, and there was maybe like 20 packages or so too that we shipped priority, and made sure that people got everything in time for Halloween. And we took the extra hit. I think it was close to like a $500 hit in total on the shipping on that. But it meant a lot to me to just get this stuff out and keep to our word. But this year we've got time to get everything in a nice fashion, so I'm not losing my mind over it. And everyone's going to get their stuff in time as well. And we've got some fun merchandise on there too. As you can see, we unlocked recently the Team Comics shirt on black, which is what people were requesting for a bit. We've got a couple that have been added on as add-ons, which I love too about the Indiegogo thing right now, is that they've got add-on perks too. So once you click on something to purchase the reward tier, it'll actually bring up at the bottom the add-ons that you put there. Last year they didn't have that. So moving forward on separate campaigns, I like that a lot.
And then so I was like, yeah, and I like this shirt here. I don't think you make big man sizes though, do you, Pete?
Up to 4XL.
See, I need to go at one more.
You need one more. They're on the bigger side of that. So I don't know if, because they run large. So
I might have to look into that because, like I said, $20, that's not bad. But all your stuff here is very affordable here. You got the calendars here, 13-month calendar. I see you got it for $6. And so you just get, do you get a comic with that, or you just get the calendar itself? Or
yeah, you get a sticker with it too. The I support my local comic shop sticker, and that calendar, the shipping is always included for U.S. backers. So you're not paying $6 plus shipping. That's all included within. So generally the calendar would probably be maybe $2 or so, and shipping would be like $3. But then with the Indiegogo cut and everything else, we bumped it to $6. So this way, everybody, it's nice and clean too. Because if you want to go on there and keep on adding perks or whatever it is, if you're in the U.S., you never have to worry about getting increased shipping on there.
I think I'm gonna have to get me one of these calendars. I like your calendar. See here, you got the Trick or Treater bundle for $10. Let me click on that and see what all you get. The tote bag, silly putty, random kid-friendly comics, the Alterna calendar, comic shop sticker, AlternaWeen pen, and the 4-color Alterna pen. Just for $10, and that's still free U.S. shipping.
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So especially that bundle is great for everybody, but it's really great if you've got kids too, because you can use that tote bag with them when they go trick or treating. It's actually it's this one too, and it looks smaller in the background because it's behind me, but it's pretty large side by side.
I see it, brother. I see it. That's nice.
A lot of candy in there. Or even use it at a convention or anything else like that. Your trips to the local comic shop every Wednesday, they fit comics great as well.
Man, and like I say, great looking merch here. Here's the hat. Well, looks like you got a couple of hats, but $15 for Alterna. Okay, so you got a 4-color hat, and then you got just the regular with the red bill, which that's the one I dig that. I dig that hat right there. That's the one. If I'm buying one, that would be the one I'm getting. Oh, you got like a little beanie. All right, brother. Man, I need to do this like y'all do it. I can't afford all this stuff. Oh, like so the Alterna Comics beanie for $18, and again, free US shipping.
Yep. And then the logos on those too. This is a G1 hat. This is Generation 1, and it's a screen print. But let me see if I can. I'll be back in 1 second to show you guys the embroidered.
All right. Let's see while we're doing that. Let me just keep going down. I want to show, because here's more of the calendar right here. And then you can see here's another Team Comics shirt. This one's blue with the Team Comics logo. And it's $20. And again, free US shipping. You can't beat that. Because I know most of my backers are US backers. So I don't know how the international shipping is, but I'm sure Peter can speak on that. I don't know how many international backers you've gotten, but that hat looks fantastic, sir.
Yeah, yeah, because you could see this one's flatter a bit, and then this one pops because it's embroidered, whereas this is screen printed. So the one everybody would be getting is the embroidered one, and the same thing with the beanie too. The logo is also embroidered. So these are really high quality hats. The thing that's great too about these is that we print up a bunch as well, and we can also have them and sell them on our site store. We've already sold over 200 hats and beanies in the past year and a half, maybe.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been great. We're running out of Alterna shirts too. We've only got a couple left. I think they're all just in medium at this point, like 4 of them or something. So now we've got all these new shirts we can put in the system, and that'll be great too for anyone that misses out. That's another reason why we're not going to go in demand too, is that a lot of these things you can just get at the Alterna Access store. And that'll be all up in a month or so. But we got the long box strong shirt, which is kind of just a joke on the fact that the long boxes, they weigh a lot nowadays, especially.
Yeah, I got 6 of them in my closet. Yeah. I still got my old comics from when I was 14, 15 years old and stuff.
Yeah,
I couldn't. I actually stopped. That's one of the reasons I started buying. Unless it's a must-have issue, I buy in graphic novel form now. I back a lot of these indie projects, because I like signed. I'm a autograph whore. I like to collect autographs and stuff. So if they're sending something in signed, I like that. But other than that, man, I like to get those graphic novels. Because man, I was running out of room. I couldn't even put I was like, these boxes, and then I had to move a couple times and got 6 full boxes of comics, and I was like, whew.
That's a workout. You got to get the weightlifting belt on.
Oh,
you got to strap up. It's a workout, and but that's what's great too. That's what's great about the newsprint that I'm really loving too, because when we have to move boxes around, it's so much lighter. It's about half the weight of a modern comic. So the boxes weigh half as much. It's like nothing. And then when they get filled up with modern comics, like a couple of the boxes that I have that have more modern issues, they weigh a ton compared to the newsprint boxes. So that's another thing too. And that ends up also saving us even on shipping. When we ship books out, when we get books in from the printer, the shipping is always less than before, when we would have graphic novels, or in one or two cases we had single issues printed on more modern paper stock.
So let me see here. So I pulled up the 25 all ages bundle, which you have for 20. So that's $1 a book,
Yep.
and still free US shipping.
Yep.
You can't beat that. 20. You get. So how does that work? You just got a lot of back issues and stuff like that, and you just
we just give you a nice random assortment at that point. For the all ages ones, we just give you the all ages books. So this way, you're not getting a mature book that's not appropriate for a kid, especially where these are supposed to be mostly just used as trick or treats or as donations to a children's hospital, a school, a library. But the purpose of AlternaWeen especially is a trick or treat. So if you want to get the kid bundle, you can do that.
So you actually publish mature titles as well. I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Oh, the most mature one is mine. Is the chair. The chair.
Now, I've heard about the chair. I did not know it was mature. Okay.
It's Let me show you the cover, and you can see exactly off the cover why it's mature and not necessarily friendly for kids. So here's the cover to the chair number 1, and this prisoner here has his legs cut off, and he's sitting in his own blood and filth.
That is okay.
So we keep it black and white on the interior, but it's very mature subject matter as well. It deals with death row, it deals with abuse of power, criminal justice system, child abuse, a lot of different things. So yeah, we definitely have mature titles too at Alterna.
Okay, so you're like a writer and an artist as well. Is that not correct? Or?
Yeah, I started off as a writer, and then I tried doing my own stuff sequentially, but I don't have the patience for sequential art. I just don't. I love making art, and everyone knows. They always see, oh, you do such great art. You should make comics now. When I first started, it wasn't so great. It was flat out awful, to be perfectly honest with you. But much like everybody else's comic, and then you get better over time. So it was really bad. It was the kind of thing where if Pete from the past submitted the book to Alterna today, it would not be accepted. And I would be telling Pete from the past, you need a couple of years, you need to do all these different things on it, So I knew that at that point, though, and it was a good learning experience, because from that I realized, I really like writing the comic. I like lettering. I like because I majored in graphic design, and I basically minored in business. There wasn't a minor at my college, but I took a lot of business courses because I knew I'd need them to get into the arts field. So I mostly did a lot of graphic design stuff. So the lettering, I love doing that. And I do a lot of the layouts and the web design and everything at Alterna too. And I do all the logo design and all that stuff at Alterna. But I started off doing mostly just the writing and things like that. And that's what I did on the chair. I wrote it, and then Kevin Christensen penciled it, and I did everything else with it too. So I did, like, you can see the inking here. Although I generally don't like to call it inking, really, because what I did, and this is probably going to blow some people's minds. So it was a form of subtractive inking. So I would generally darken the page a lot and put the opacity down, and then just kind of shade, erase around the shapes, the figures, everything else. Because what happened is that I wanted a really sketchy style from the artist, because I knew I was going to do a lot to it. And I did it all with a mouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there wasn't a tablet. I didn't use anything like that. It was all done with a mouse and different brushes and Photoshop and stuff like that. So it was a lot of that kind of subtractive kind of stuff, where you just kind of etched it away. Because some people thought this was on charcoal or whatever else. And I wanted to kind of look like that. I wanted it to not look like traditional inks on a comic. I wanted it to kind of have that etched in feel, that kind of, as if he had one piece of charcoal and was kind of, drawing out his life story in a way. But yeah, so that was something that I don't even know how I did it now. When I try to every now and then, I'm like, can I still do it? And I'm like, why did I do this? This is insane. doing
Well,
the
see,
whole thing with the mouse, and oh man.
well, yeah, that's actually the chair was something I was actually interested in reading. My buddy Jamal Baraka from Garbage Tier Media, he was telling me about it. He reads a lot of comics. I know his Facebook group. They've got over 240,000 people that are subscribed to his Facebook group over there at Garbage Tier Media. So but he was telling me, he was like, "Yo, man, I read the chair for Peter Simeti. It's really cool." And I was like, "Okay, so I need to," because yeah, from seeing people share, I've seen a couple of crowd funds on Kickstarter and Indiegogo that were Alterna books and things of that nature. But I was just really interested in how your business model is, because it looks like you're succeeding where a lot of people are failing. So it's just
yeah, and that's the thing, is that largely because everyone always goes, well, what you guys are doing can't apply to a bigger company, let's say. But the thing is that I look at that and go, well, why not? Because all we're doing is we're pricing the comics affordably. Because I'm in a very unique position, and I'm aware of that not only do I run the company and I do pretty much like everything, because I've made sure I learned every aspect of comics that I could possibly learn. Otherwise, I felt like, well, I can't run a company then if I don't know what goes into inking, what goes into penciling, what goes into writing, what goes into graphic design, what goes into every aspect of it, shipping, packaging, all that. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about, so that not that I could just help people out as well, but that I could also say, okay, well, this would be done like this, and you could do that to it, and you could tweak that to it. And I knew what was possible, what was not possible. I knew how long something would take, all that kind of stuff. It's very important. So I know I'm in a unique position like that, where I do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of hats at Alterna. But the other thing too is that the books are priced affordably, so everybody then can try out all of our entire line if they want, which in many cases they do. And by doing something like that, you go, it's not about cost anymore of the comic. It's about, does it look good to me? And most of the comics at Alterna look good to people. So they'll say, well, I'll try out this one, and I like this, and I like that, and I'll try that out. And especially at shows, if it's a 3-day show, let's say, they'll get something from us, and then they'll get maybe like 2 or 3 issues the first day. And then they'll come back the next day because they took a look or they read them overnight. And then they buy like 5 to 10 more. And they just keep picking them up, and it doesn't hit people too when they come to our table at a show either, that these are new comics at $1.50, and there's no bait and switch, there's no gimmick here. It's literally more affordable. I've had people come up and go, oh, it's a dollar comic, it's on newsprint. Oh, so how old are these? These what publishers? Alterna's still around? Because they don't understand that comics don't need to be this expensive anymore. And by selling them like this and getting a lot of readers that are interested in a lot of titles, that's your word of mouth. That's people that are excited about the product. And then when you reciprocate that excitement and that engagement with someone who says, hey, I really like this book, or even if they say, I don't like the book, the best thing you could do is just tell them, hey, thanks for reading and giving us a shot. I hope you enjoy the next one. Hey, what are you into? Maybe we can find something that's good for you. And that's always what we do. We don't say, someone doesn't like the chair, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't, because it's too intense, it's too dark, it's that kind of thing. And I say, that's fine. What are you into? Especially at shows, I'll be right there engaging with someone, telling them about my book. And they go, that sounds too dark and too scary. I don't really like that kind of stuff. And they're telling it to my face. And that's fine. I don't care. That's wonderful. Everyone has
get triggered tastes. And go, oh, you're a Nazi.
Everyone has different tastes. So I go, okay, hey, what are you into? Oh, I'm into superheroes. I like lighter stuff. Okay, so I go, well, we've got Psycho KO, the actual Roger, Mighty Mascots, and that's the wonderful thing about Alterna too, is that my tastes are very, very just the complete range of whatever it is, and it's like that for comics. It's like that for music. It's like that for everything. So we have a lot of assortment, a lot of variety at Alterna. So I can easily point out something someone would be interested in because of that. Whereas if we were just a publisher that did horror, because a lot of people think we just do horror because they see the chair a lot, because a lot of people get that. It's been around a while. And I talk about it a lot because it's my book. But we don't really just do horror. We only have like maybe 4 or 5 horror titles. Everything, and we have like about 30 titles at this point. So, but if we just did horror, I couldn't really take advantage of that person who goes, "Hey, I just like superhero, I just like action or whatever." Now instead, I have something to offer to them. I can't take advantage of that sale and that opportunity and say, "Okay, we've got something else for you. I think you'll like." So even if you're a creator though, and you don't have another book, and it's just this book, especially if you're working on, let's say, a legacy type title at a bigger company, and a fan didn't like this last issue or whatever, you could easily just thank them for reading and say, I hope you stick with the story still. I think you'll like where we're going with it. And that's it. You don't need to do anything other than that. And that's if you choose to respond. Why choose to respond negatively to stuff like that? It doesn't make any sense to me. I've never, especially when it's someone who's just expressing an opinion on the work. If anything, I want everyone to talk about it, because and I think as a creator, you know this too. When you don't have anyone talking about it, that's the worst feeling. It feels like, man,
yes.
I'd rather someone just say, I hate this thing to me than say nothing, because I can work with that. I can grow from that. I can take something from that experience. Whereas if no one's saying anything and it's just complete silence, you're like, what does anyone even think about this? And it feels like you're kind of making this in the void, and there's no one actually reading it.
All right. Okay. So we're almost out of time here, but I wanted to get this. This is a question from Lightning Fan, my friend Amanda Lamella, who is the editor for Brand. And as a matter of fact, if anyone has not read Brand and you are new to this channel, I have a link to the first 21 pages of our comic in the description there. You can read it, full color font, all that for free, whether you backed it or not. You can just check it out and let us know what you think. But Amanda is saying she's got a question for you. How are the Bruins going to look this year?
Oh, boy. Yeah, last year was tough because we could have won and should have won the cup, and that didn't happen. It was a better turnout than what occurred for her Lightning, though. Boy, oh boy, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Go Preds. Go Preds.
Yeah. I don't know how did they. I think the Bruins will be fine. I don't think they're going to win it this year, though. I think they're going to have some roadblocks ahead of them with a couple different things. But man, I was shocked that the Preds let Subban go. Man, oh
yeah,
man.
That really pissed me off. He was like my favorite player on the team, and I mean, I think they figured they got a good deal, and and all that. But I follow him on Instagram and stuff. He's really fan friendly. A lot of people in the Nashville area really showed him a lot of love, and I was heartbroken when I saw. I couldn't believe it. I was like.
Yeah. And I say this too, again, as a Bruins fan who, you love to hate PK when he was a Canadian. And, but it was one of those, man, I wish we had him kind of things, and I like the fact too, that he seemed to blossom in Nashville as a Predator.
Oh, yeah, it got even better. That's why I was like, I've got a Predator shirt that people sometimes they goof on me when they see me wearing it on stream. But my Predator shirt is a PK Subban shirt. It's got PK Subban on the back. And so I was like, so I definitely that really was
Pekka's gonna miss him. Pekka's gonna miss that. Oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm like,
it's gonna be rough.
I just would like to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was interesting seeing the Stanley Cup being hosted in Nashville, and like the Undertaker showed up, Dak Prescott showed up. Nick Saban, the coach of my Alabama Crimson Tide, Roll Tide. Nick Saban came to one of the games. I was like, man, it was a different a set of celebrities that were showing up to the games in Nashville. It was interesting. So, like I said, when I saw the Undertaker, I was like,
things just got real.
Yeah, well, it's the thing. Like, I live here in Murfreesboro, and the Undertaker. He has a house. I know he's got a house in somewhere in the Houston area in Texas, but because he's from there. But he has a home in like the Brentwood, Franklin area, somewhere around there. And he works out a lot there, and he rides Harleys. And I was working. Yeah, I was working in we were having some kind of motorcycle event in this area, and he drove. It was him and a pack of choppers just drove past. I was working at a place called Crystals down here, and him and a pack. Everybody was like, "That's the Undertaker." he was just riding. I was like, "All right, man, get it."
Wow.
So yeah. It was cool seeing him though. I was like, he's just out there like a regular person. It was really cool, you know.
Yeah. I'm glad he is, because I know he's been having troubles lately too with a lot of his, his health and everything, and the thing that all the wrestlers have problems with. But yeah, that was fun to see him there when they had the Stanley Cup final, and I was rooting for him, because I don't not like the Penguins, but I'm not necessarily a fan of a couple of them.
We had a lot of bandwagon fans when the Preds made it to the finals. They didn't know what the hell the Stanley Cup was, and then all of a sudden, every car going by has got Preds stuff on.
Well, that's the craziest thing, and I know a ton of people, and actually, he's in the chat too, Rooster Puncher, Spencer. I know a ton of people that aren't hockey fans, but they're like, I love going to a hockey game because the excitement it's so palpable. It's electric, and you could even feel that when you watching that final. Nashville was just, the roof was going to blow.
It was lit. No, trust me. I went downtown one time during one of the finals games. Boy, it was thousands. They had to get more police out there. It was like there was so many people. I mean, the fans in this area, it's just like, but I've gone to the Titans game. I was like, when the Titans, and especially if the Titans are good. Now, we've got really loyal football fans here, but when the Titans actually have a chance to do something, boy, it gets crowded downtown. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm a big, playing fantasy football, all that kind of stuff. But Peter, this has been a pleasure talking to you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. We got AlternaWeen. It's up. You got 38 more hours to get in and back that thing. How can people reach out to you on social media?
You can follow me at Peter Simeti, or follow us at Alterna Comics. And make sure you can go to AlternaWeen.com. That should take you nice and quick right there. And make sure to back that before it expires, because something that's great about AlternaWeen, and I'll close out with this statement too. Last year, about 15,000 comics went out, and a lot of those kids that got comics, it was their first ever comic, and a lot of them exclaimed about that to people that were giving them as trick-or-treats. And these kids were so excited to get comics. They never saw comics out before, so because comics aren't in as many places anymore, kids don't happen upon them. They don't see them. And I think we can all kind of attest to that. We all saw a lot of comics everywhere back in the day, and now they're not really anywhere anymore. So the fact that these comics are getting out there, and they're getting kids that are falling in love with comic books, they're making comics and drawing and everything else. And so it's not just about exciting kids to get into reading comic books, but it's also about getting a whole new generation inspired to possibly create their own comics. We don't know, maybe in 20 years from now, and this would be beautiful if it happens, but maybe I get someone that comes to a table at a show and says, hey, Alterna, that was my first comic I got on Halloween. And maybe they're making something awesome, and they're like one of the next, best creators, or they're whatever. You never know. And that's the power that this kind of stuff has. And to me, that's why this kind of thing is important. I hope we can do it every year.
Oh man, yeah, that was like I said, you're making me have flashbacks to my childhood, and I was 7 years old. And my dad got me, like, there was, they still had the little spinning racks in the grocery stores and stuff back then, and they'd have like the little 3-packs for like $1.50 or whatever, and have 3 or 4 comics in it or whatever. And that's what I first, I saw Alpha Flight and Spider-Man and G.I. Joe and all that, and they were all on newsprint, and it was glorious. And you could put them in your back pocket while you're on your bicycle and do all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I don't know, the adult in me was like, hey, this might be worth some money sometime. Once you start realizing that they might have a value, you kind of lose something. But hey, I still buy comics. So 44 years old, and I'm still buying comics, and I love it. I'm very passionate about
making
this.
your own,
Yes.
And that's what's great, is that inspired you, to create your own characters, make your own stories. And then now, you never know where it's going to take you. Now you're here talking to me, and we're talking about comics and putting all, you know, Alterna comics out there into the hands of trick-or-treaters on Halloween. And it's something that I think, you know, we need to do stuff like this as comic creators, as publishers. You know, we need to get comics out there because they're just not there anymore, you know. And I know we all kind of feel the same way, and people have heard me say this a lot, but we have comics for everybody right now, but everybody can't get them because they're nowhere. You know, so what good is having a comic for everyone when no one can find them? You know, and I know people say, well, go to your local comic shop, but most people, either they don't have a local comic shop, it's like hours away, if they're lucky enough for that even, or the comic shop doesn't carry specific kinds of books because there's so many of them. You know, so this kind of thing, especially for kids to see comics and to really get introduced to them, is wonderful. I love. Last year, it made Halloween into a whole different experience, even just for me, to see everybody tweeting out all the pictures of the trick-or-treaters with Alterna books, and they got their costumes on and everything, and it turned into a fun event that turned Halloween not into just a day for getting candy and everything else, but into a comic book holiday too. And I can't imagine that, right? Imagine being a kid, getting all your candy on Halloween, and then you have it on the floor and you're kind of picking apart whatever, and you got comics now. You got a comic book you can read while having your candy. Like that's the best thing. I would have loved that as a kid.
Well, comics don't cause tooth decay, and so if you're worried about that sugar, then man, get something really sweet here with a box of these Alterna comics, man. Peter, thank you so much, man. This has been a privilege to talk to you, man, and hopefully we can do more of this. I enjoyed this conversation so very much. I do thank you for your time here today.
Thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. But if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and right here on this YouTube channel. Everywhere is at Akari Press. And if you type in AkariPress.com, it will take you directly to my Indiegogo campaign for my comic book series brand with the phenomenal Kane & White. We're on Teespring. We're on Amazon.com. The links to those are in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm out.